Welcome to the American Small Business League podcast. I am Bruce Torres. With me is Alexander Cooke, running for Congress in Florida's 21st District as an independent. His website is alexcook4congress.com. Before I read a little bit more about you, Alex, I just want to ask, how are you today?
I'm doing quite well, and thank you for having me on here.
Likewise, Alex has a BS in finance. He's the founder and CEO of Optimus Capital. He was elected to the town council of Juno Beach in 2022, was quickly elevated to mayor, and served until 2024. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And you refused your mayoral salary and you rejected all campaign donations, gifts, and endorsements. Speaking of which, we, the ASBL, as you know, have endorsed Bernard Taylor for your district. No reflection on you. We just are only meeting you right now, but you like our goals. We're going to get into all that in the second half. So with all that being said, no rush. Alex, please tell us how do you launch into teaching a new audience who you are and why you're running. We're all ears.
Okay, so I am Alexander Cooke. I have lived in South Florida, specifically Juno Beach, for the last 10 years. I run a small business, Optimus Capital. I grew it from the ground up. It is now officially a large advisory firm. So built it from nothing to this. I am big small business person. I know what it takes and I know what has to be done, and it's a lot of work. So I really respect fellow small business people. Plus, we're the ones that really provide employment, not the big firms.
Hmm.
I moved to Juno Beach in 2017, give or take. Um, there was some things that I saw around town that I didn't like so much, and eventually it pushed me enough to go ahead and run for office. I didn't win initially, but the following year I won in a landslide. And yes, the council eventually elevated me to mayor. Uh, I am, I am a true fiscal conservative. I have a long background in finance and deep understanding mathematics. Thus, I am someone who's going to work very hard to control taxation, but understanding that taxation is good because I can't pave the roads that my car drives on. So we do need those things. Juno Beach is a unique town. It's very small. 45% of it is preserve. It sits right on the water. It is an island. It's intercoastal, the coastal waterway. So we had unique issues there, like a lot of problems with the waterways and development issues. High property value, it's very expensive there, but we wanted to keep coastal charm and keep it the Florida that you think of. And the reason why I moved to Juno Beach, I didn't want to change it to anything else. In that process, I had to fight a lot of overdevelopment, and I consider it inappropriate development because everything has a time and place, and building to the sky on sinking lands is just not the time or place. So I fought that very hard, and that was what I was well known for in that community, was being a voice for the community, the environment, and the surrounding areas, and controlled and appropriate development. I can probably go on, but I will cut it off there because I'm sure you got more questions.
Well, what were the top one or two things that tipped you over into the decision to run for Congress this year?
So I left the mayor position in 2024. I stepped away from politics for the last 2 years, but watching things, how a lot has played out over the last few years, and the fact that I believe we need strong checks and balances in Congress. We don't need any more rubber stamp situations. I have always been someone who uh, always operated in the greater good and fought for the little person and for the community. The fact is, we're not seeing that anymore. We're just seeing whatever this current administration wants, they get. And they, regardless whether you like them or not, I don't care. I will be there to put some checks and balances in place and say very clearly that you can't have everything, but there are ways to work through this and get the right things for everyone so that this country moves forward and doesn't have the divisiveness that we're seeing these days as well.
How important are small businesses to the United States of America?
Small businesses are the lifeblood of this country, not, these large companies. And we shouldn't be giving these grants and subsidies to these giant companies. We should be supporting the small business people around this country because that's where the future jobs are. These big companies, they view everyone as expendable. They dump their employees left and right for the next buck. That's not how the world should be operating, especially when we know that small businesses are by and large the backbone of this country, not just on an employment basis, but on a tax dollar basis and a money making basis.
Oh, absolutely. When did you launch your campaign?
This campaign was launched in March.
Thank you. And what is your district most concerned about?
So this district is kind of big and has a few different areas and a few different issues. So it goes all the way up to Fort Pierce. And for people that don't know, that's 2 counties north of here. So this district encompasses 3 counties. It has the top half of Palm Beach County, all of Martin County, and all of St. Lucie County. And each of those entities have slightly different issues, though they do have some similar stuff. We have a lot of problems with property insurance across this whole district. Florida has that by and large. We have some healthcare issues as well. And we have a lot of cost of living issues the further north you get into this district. And then there's a couple unique items to this area. We have unique waterway issues. Now, may or may not have heard of the algae blooms and the giant seaweed that we're seeing here recently. This time of year, we get these blooms of sargassum, and they come out of the Atlantic Ocean, and they can cause red tides if they're too big. Sargassum is naturally forming, and it is a natural situation, but where the problem arises is this. We have a large lake. It's one of the largest in the country, Lake Okeechobee. And Lake Okeechobee is part of this district, not all of it, but some of it. Lake Okeechobee has become a catch basin for all the flows from the North Orlando area. There's a lot of farms, and in the past they used phosphorus and other things. There's a lot of septic tanks, and all these things drain into the waterway, flow into Lake Okeechobee, and then we get these massive algae blooms, and they're fed by the phosphorus. Now we have these locks that were installed years ago on the east and west, and when the water gets too high in Lake Okeechobee, they pull these locks, open them up, the water flows east and west, comes shooting out towards us over here, and it's filled with these blue-green algae blooms, and it's very destructive. It kills off the wildlife, it kills off the grass that the manatees feed on, and eventually, if it gets out to the ocean, it hits that sargassum out there and causes super blooms of this sargassum. And it hits our shores and it creates red tides, sulfur smells, all kinds of other things. Unfortunately, this is all man-made issues that we created for ourselves, playing with waterways, trying to correct things. In the farmer's defense, most of the big farms don't use phosphorus anymore, but it is so embedded in the soil that I've heard records that it could be there for the next 30 years, even though they've completely stopped using it, and it'll keep flowing in.
When you talk
So
about these things to your audiences, do they nod their heads? They're very aware of this for the most part.
around here, and specifically Martin County, they know exactly what it is. They have a lot of groups that are fighting very hard for this stuff. I ran into issues with it as mayor because the Juneau Beach is one of the areas that would get the blasts of the sargassum. And we had a particularly large hit a few years back when they had to open those locks. We're getting a big hit of sargassum right now, but it's not from the locks. The lake hasn't gotten too high in capacity right now, but there's been some dredging and other works along those waterways that's helped get the phosphorus and things out there and cause problems. The side note
What?
on Lake Okeechobee, oh,
Mhm.
sorry for cutting off. The side note is we put a lot of dams. Okeechobee naturally in the past would have flowed into the Everglades to the south, and the Everglades would have worked as a natural filtration system. So to correct this in the future, we need to get this water flowing south again, and then we need to work real hard any way we can. Federal government, the Army Corps of Engineers are involved in cleaning up this phosphorus issues because it is very detrimental to the unique wildlife we have, our natural waterways, our drinking water, and our clean waterways. There's a lot of boating here, very disruptive of the boating.
You're going up against presumably the Republican competitor is going to be the incumbent. I think his name is Brian Mast. He's been in since
Correct.
2016. He got pretty high voter as I recently checked. How are you positioning yourself about this particular problem you just described in distinction to him? Has he tried to work on this, or has he ignored it? Is he a failure about it? What can you tell me?
He ran on it, and he's done, what do they call them? Blue ribbon research things. And I think he got one of these researches, but he hasn't really done much beyond that. And, it's been 10 years. I'm a big fan of term limits. So my view is, you've done all you can. It's now time for someone else to step in and pick up the slack.
And besides that, what are your arguments in such a seemingly traditionally Republican district?
This is where it's interesting for me is I was the Republican mayor of Juno Beach. I am NPA now. But I'm somebody who's kind of left without a party. That's the better way to put it. Uh, I was never an extreme right, and I'm not, going to be extreme left either. I'm what you would consider a true center, maybe slightly right. I'm a true fiscal conservative with a social liberal view on a lot of things. So I'm very much an environmentalist. I very much want to leave the future for my boys. And I'm someone who always believes in the greater good, regardless of the situation. So consequently, I'm in a very different position here. I mean, I've been asked to, join parties here and there. Why didn't you primary? Why didn't you run as Republican? And I've been very clear on that. That one, I don't fit that party mold anymore. I think that that party left me behind. Uh, I was one of the people that was better suited for that party 20, 30 years ago.
The Democrats have a primary coming up now in on August 18th, and you're is this your full-time endeavor? Is your campaign your full-time endeavor?
So I haven't shut down Optimus Capital. No, I'm still a small businessman, and I won't ever give that up. I did make the pledge not to trade stocks, which creates a unique situation for me since I run an active management firm. But I will be able to put my assets into indices and separate things. And I have CIO here who can take over a lot of things. The big thing here is my firm is a true fiduciary. We don't have any brokerage licenses, so we do operate to the highest ethical standard, and I expect the highest ethical standard of everybody that works for me, and I expect people to come to that standard when I deal with people. I'm pretty rigid about that, and I don't break on that at all. It's not hard to find information about that because it's just the way I am. I'm very rigid on people doing the right thing. So with that, any investments that I do end up doing on that process in the end for clients will have to be heavily vetted, and we will have to document everything because I won't be trading for myself. But there will be situations where I still have to step in for the business because I'm not going to let the business disappear. I built this from the ground up, and I'm very proud of it. But I can say that I will observe all conflicts of interest and I will separate myself in every situation. And you'll never see me trying to make a profit off of my position. In fact, I refused my salary in Juno Beach. I think we already said that because I felt the town deserved that money. And I'm a strong believer in simple things like that.
That's strong. And if you defined Optimus Capital, I'll ask again just for my own memory. Is it a private investment firm? Is it a private equity firm? How do you describe it?
So I call it a small institutional management investment advisory firm. So I was a bond trader, then I was a PM with a few big names, and I run this
PM,
now.
PM.
Portfolio manager.
Thank
That's
you.
a fancy word of saying a guy who runs a portfolio of stocks, bonds, options, things like that.
Okay.
So we actively trade for some 401ks, endowments, and private clients. We do have a wide swath. It operates a little differently in that we're not really financial advisors. We're more of the Costco model. You bypass the salespeople and you deal directly with the people that actually trade and manage your money.
Okay, fantastic. What are you focused on your goals for your campaign over the next 2 to 3, 4 weeks?
So for me, it's going to be speaking events, and I have a few coming up. There's also been I've been on a couple of podcasts, and they're doing editing. Stuff will start appearing more and more. I have a speaking engagement in about a week, 8 days, about the data centers down here. I know that's a hot button topic, but I'm a strong believer in the fact that these data centers are not appropriate for sensitive lands, and they're trying to build them in sensitive lands around here. And so I will be speaking about that and against that on the 27th. Aside from that, it's really just ramping up the campaign now because we just qualified 6 days ago. So the 12th was the final day for qualifying. So right now we're now getting things going a little bit more. It'll accelerate a little bit more on more speaking engagements, things like that. But then the real heavy duty campaign kind of occurs on August 19th because the primary for the Dems will be over and we'll have an idea of who's left standing. The fact is, right now, it's me and Brian Mast, and we are waiting for the outcome of the two Dems. And
Mhm.
until that happens, we don't really know how the field is set.
What else are you featuring prominently either on your website or when you have conversations like this to intrigue and compel folks to say, Alex is my guy, Alex is the man for this job?
I mean, more than anything else, I tell people I'm not up here telling you what I will do. I have a track record that you can actually see because I've already been elected to office. And I am a strong, strong fighter for the environment, for the community, and for the futures of small businesses and for the average person. I consider myself very different from the other candidates. I'm well educated. I'm well spoken. My whole life is research at the heart. I'm a research analyst, so I know a lot about a lot of things. I have to study a lot, but it's also led me down paths where I know too much, and sadly, I know where things are headed, and therefore I have to be, if I can't get anyone else to step up, I got to step up and do the right thing and help us, help the small business world, help the community, and help the US move forward. I'm a firm believer in the captain goes down with the ship, and I'm the captain, and I will do what's necessary to make sure everybody has a good, healthy, safe life. And someone asked me the other day, well, what will you do when you get in office? You know, how will you look at it? Because it's such a short term. Everybody's campaigning again for their second term. I have a very different perspective of that. I'm going to work hard the whole way through all 2 years to get the best for my people and for this country. And I consider that the campaigning. I'm not going to be outwardly doing a campaign just to try and stay in there. My campaign is I'm going to do the best I can for you. And I believe the people will see that and they won't need me to get out there and campaign. They will say, you know what, this is somebody we want to keep there for at least a couple more years. But again, I said term limits and I I put term limits on myself if I can't put term limits in Congress. So I will know that I cannot stay there forever because I'm also a firm believer in finding the next generation to come up behind me who
Hmm.
I believe will do the right thing as well. I did make a pledge for the term limits that I would put a lock on myself of 6 years max. Besides, if I can't do the best and right thing for my community in 6 years, then what am I doing there anyway?
To swing things into the more of the in depth of the small business issues.
How do I feel about women in small business? And I'm a very firm believer in that. And I believe I told you that 20% of this business is owned by my wife. I believe everybody should have a chance to show who they are, be who they are. And if they want to run a small business, I'm there for them. Like I said earlier, I believe one of the biggest things that I can do is start showing that we should be pulling these grants from these big giant firms. They don't need the money. You know, these giant firms with billionaires running them, they don't need the money. We can find new ways to use that money and support new groups. And I'm sure there's a bunch of women businesses that really could use the help because the new ideas aren't coming from these big companies. They're coming from someone hidden away somewhere who's struggling just to get their idea out there.
Well, you're right. You're right on the money, and I'm gonna take a minute or two to paint the big target and then the bullseye. The big target is the fact that, and many people don't know this, you do, but many people don't, Alex. We are nothing but a small business nation. 36 million small businesses. 99.9% of all businesses in America fit the government's loose definition of less than 500 employees. We think that's not the right definition. We think it ought to be less than 100 because 98% of all businesses in America have less than 100 employees. We are a small business nation. And we have found for decades that the federal contracts that are supposed to be going to small businesses aren't, even though the SBA, Small Business Administration, which is responsible for reporting progress and status every year, they say the federal government, cumulative, met that goal, surpassed that goal, everything's fine. No, people should go to our site, asbl.com, and see our documentation and the stories we show and that we've lived that show the vast majority of federal contract dollars, including most that we are told go to small businesses, go to the 1/10 of 1% of businesses that are big businesses. And like you alluded to, because they're already big, they don't create any new jobs with those contracts. Whereas if legitimate small businesses got the contracts we're told that they get, hundreds of thousands, perhaps up to 2 million extra jobs would be created every year on top of all the jobs small businesses create anyway. That's because for every 1% increase in contracts to small businesses, 100,000 jobs get created. That's according to the chair of the Senate Small Business Committee in 2010. Small businesses create the vast majority of all, jobs that get created, and yet we are woefully neglected by the federal government by this fraud and obfuscation that's been going on for decades. But wait, there's more. For the last year and a half, we've been promoting our Don't Cheat Women project, don'tcheatwomen.com, and see our argument for raising the goal from 5% to 15% of the federal contract dollars that should go to women-owned small businesses, because women own 40% of all businesses in the United States, and they sell what the government buys. There is no way to justify the fact that companies owned by men get 95% and more, actually, of all the federal contracts because the government admits they claim we hit the 5% goal only twice in the last 32 years when that goal was established. Companies owned by women really get maybe 1% of the federal contracts, and that's an egregious shortcoming and disservice right there. Well, I might as well get the third thing on the table, Alex, then we can really relax and talk, which is the fact that on April 27th, identical bills were introduced in the House and the Senate that would abolish even that little 5% goal for women-owned small businesses and the little 5% goal for minority-owned businesses, which would hurt thousands of businesses but cost us hundreds of thousands of jobs for whatever women-owned and minority businesses exist that are creating the jobs, and it would practically guarantee that 100% of the federal contract budget, claimed to be $800 billion, if these bills go through and they kill those goals for women and minorities, it would practically guarantee that 100% of that spending would go to companies owned by men. So we want to implore you to confirm that, run on it, and tell us how it goes. Tell us how it lands, and basically just help save our small businesses, and particularly those owned by women and those owned by minorities. That's the great equipment we want to hand you on a silver platter.
I'll go one further on the size. You know, with the modern era and AI and the amount of people they're firing and letting go, I would tell you a 500 person company can be massive these days because they don't need the staff. You know, it is the small businesses that continue to hire because you need the people. They don't have the infrastructure to set up massive AI systems like that to take over for everything. Not to mention, I don't know about you, but I don't really like dealing with AI. And you grab the phone and you get some computer on there and you're yelling at the thing constantly, representative, representative,
Yes,
representative. You know?
yes.
And I see that same thing happening. So I'm with you. The 500 number is way out of whack. You know, 100 or less is probably a lot more realistic and may even be, as we're seeing the changing world, maybe, you know, out of realistic numbers as well.
It
Um,
is. It's
you know,
too
I mean,
big. Even that's too big. Yeah.
my small business here, we there's five of us. You know, we're not huge.
Yeah. No,
And
the average business in America, I think, has 8 employees, and 20 about 27 million of the 36 million have no employees. They're the owner.
sole proprietor, yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, you know. Well,
Yeah.
that's usually where the next great idea comes from.
Yes. Yes. We have all this information in one great, nice, juicy article on our Substack, asbl.substack. It's pinned to the top. It's dated May 21st, and it has not only the phone numbers and offices of the representative and the senator who introduced those bills, it's got the contact information for the committees that they all have been referred to. And we hope that everybody watching and listening will go to asbl.substack.com, grab that top article, print it out, and spend a half an hour, if that, calling those committees and saying, please kill this bill, please kill that bill. We have a little suggested script right there. We recently learned that in any given year, single digits, less than 10% of Americans ever contact a representative or a senator about anything. Can you imagine if all the people complaining about political things in real life or on social media every month, twice a month, made 3 phone calls, your representative and your 2 senators, and you gave them what for about what you want them to be solving and what you want them to be creating for you, things would change, wouldn't they?
I mean, I'd like to believe so. I was always an open door when I was in office because I wanted to hear from people, and I'm here to take your advice and mix it with mine, and hopefully we come together to a great idea. And unfortunately, from my dealings with folks in Congress, Senate, whatever, they ignore you. And it's another reason why I believe people more like me should be up there.
I'm happy with the length of this. Is there anything you would repeat, augment, make clear, final thoughts? Tell us your website again. Take as much time as you want right now to sum everything up in any way you want.
Sure. Again, Alexander Cooke. My website is www.alexcook with an E for Congress.com. You can find me on Instagram at Alexander R. Cook with an E again. On Facebook, it's Cook with an E for Florida. I just, you know, I want people to know that I care deeply, and I'll reiterate again, I do operate in the greater good, even to my detriment. I have been known to vote for things that were better for the community and did not help me, or in some cases hurt me. And that's because at the end of the day, I have to separate myself and look at this from how does this help everyone? And there's plenty of situations where helping everyone means that it may not be the best situation for me, but I'm okay with that as long as my boys have a great future.
Thank you very much for joining me today. And I want to thank everybody for watching and listening.